Hello, this is Dr. Mears, and today we are going to be learning about the general form of a quadratic function. General form is also called standard form in some courses, and it's f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a cannot be 0. If it is 0, then we do not have a quadratic function anymore. A, b, and c are also going to be real numbers. Let's look at this chart before we start filling it out. So in this first column, we have the general form, and we have 1, 2, 3 examples of that. Then we have A, B, and C. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be pulling out the numbers A, B, and C. Then we need to determine if the graph goes up or down based upon if A is positive or if A is negative. Then we're going to be finding the x value of the vertex. This is negative b over 2a. And we're going to be substituting it in so that we can find the y value. We need to find the axis of symmetry. We're going to write the vertex as a point, and then we're going to find the y-intercept. So with all of that, let's dig in, but piece by piece so it helps you to understand. Let's look at this first example. F of x equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 1. So we need to pull out a, b, and c. So a is the number linked to x squared. 2 is the number linked to x squared. So ax squared. So the a is 2. Next, we have plus bx. B is linked to the x by multiplication. Notice I am circling the plus sign because this now is going to make 4 a positive number. So if it's plus, that represents a positive number. Then I have plus c. C is the constant. It's the one that does not have a variable next to it. So notice again, I circled the minus sign because when I pull it out, c is negative 1. So please be aware of plus and minus signs, as when you pull them out, they then become positive and negative signs. Okay, now, does it go up? So what does a parabola look like if it goes up? A parabola looks like that, where the arrows are pointed up. If a parabola goes down, it looks like that, where the arrows are pointed down. This is all based upon if our a is positive or negative. So here, our a is positive, equals a positive number. That means it goes up, and I'm going to actually draw it. Please write in everything I'm writing here. It will make it easier when you look back at your notes. So this does go up. Okay. Now what we need to start to find is the minimum value here. This is called, remember, the vertex. The vertex is located as a point, an x, y point. In order to be able to find the vertex, we need to find the x value first. This is how to find the x value first. We need to do negative b over 2a. So when we substitute it in, this is what I want you to do. I want you to put a negative sign. In place of the letter B, I would like you to do a set of parentheses. Division, 2 times, instead of the letter A, I want you to do a set of parentheses. Equals. Okay, let's fill this in. In the numerator, we need the variable B. What number is B? B was 4, so fill 4 in. In the denominator, what number was A? A was 2. You fill the 2 in. Please be careful here. If you do this all in one step in your calculator, it is not going to give you the right answer. It's going to do order of operations, and we do not want that. So what I suggest you do is simplify the numerator. This comes out to negative 4. Simplify your denominator. 2 times 2 is positive 4. Then in your calculator, you can divide that out and you get a negative 1. What this represents is our x value of our vertex, negative 1. So this minimum point happens when x is negative 1. We have our x. Now we need to find our y. So this represents our x. Okay, how do we do that? We have to substitute. See how it says f of this formula here? We're going to need to substitute the number we just found, the number 1, for x and calculate it. So I'm going to write down our original formula, our original general form of our quadratic equation. F of x equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 1. Now, a surefire way to get this correct is to replace your x, rewrite the equation and replace your x with a set of empty parentheses. Here's my x, set of empty parentheses, 2 times, here's my x, a set of empty parentheses squared, plus 4, here's my x, a set of empty parentheses, minus 1. So notice, anywhere I had an x, it's now a set of empty parentheses, and I'm ready to find and put in the number that I just found, -1, -1, -1. This will keep your negatives and your negatives squared much more organized, so that all you have to do now is put this side into the calculator just like you see it. So I'm going to get my calculator. Okay. I'm going to turn it on, clear out anything, and I'm going to put in 2 parentheses. Now remember, this is a negative, so your negative button's down here. So -1, close your parentheses, square it. Make sure you're out of that square spot, which I am, plus 4 parentheses, -1, and then this is minus here, so -1. Double checking 2 parentheses -1 squared plus 4 parentheses -1 minus 1. That is correct. And I'm going to get the answer -3. So this answer is the y value of our vertex. So we know that this minimum point happens at -1, -3. That's how you find the vertex. Now, axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry, remember, is that imaginary line that cuts through the vertex. All you have to do is write it as a line. You have to write x equals, and whatever we got for -b over 2a, this right here, -1. That's it. That's the axis of symmetry. So this number is very important because it not only helps you to get the vertex, it also helps you to get the axis of symmetry. You must write x equals. If you just write the number, it is not correct because this is an imaginary line. And lastly, where does it intersect the y-axis? That's at the point 0, c. So 0, comma, let's go back and see what our c was, and that's -1. So that's where it intersects the y-intercept. Okay, let's graph this so I can prove to you we just found everything using some of the algebra here and some of our really handy formulas. So what I'm going to do is press y equals, move this over because it's a little glary there. Okay, I'm going to put in 2x squared plus 4x, remember the x button is right here, minus 1. Double checking 2x squared plus 4x minus 1. These are relatively low numbers, so I can press zoom and then standard here. It just gives me a standard -10 by 10 grid. Yay! Okay, so does it open up? There's my light. Yes, it opens up. Perfect, got that right. Vertex, if you look, our vertex should be at -1, 3. If you look here, we are counting by ones. So we have -1 is the x, and 1, 2, -3. -1, -3 is the y. Yep, down here, right there. And x equals -1, that's also that imaginary line that cuts through the graph. So we got the vertex and axis of symmetry. Our last one to check is our y-intercept, 0, -1. So just looking, our y-intercept, so this is our y-axis, and it does cross at 0, -1. So we were able to calculate all of the information given to us from this graph without, we didn't need this. We were able to do it all out by hand. All right, let's try it again. So our next equation, f of x equals -x squared minus 6x plus 4. If you don't have a number in between the negative sign and the variable, please input a 1. Remember, the ones like to hide. So we always do. Here's a, because a is attached to the x squared. Here's b. B is attached to the x. Here's c. C does not have an x next to it. So our a is going to be -1. Our b is going to be, notice I circled the minus sign because it's going to be -6. And our c, notice I circled the plus sign because it's going to be +4. Okay, let's determine if it goes up or down. Our A is a negative number. Negative A's mean that it's going to go down, which means that it's going to look like this. Okay, so it's going to have now a maximum point. So this had a minimum, min. This has a maximum, max, because it's the highest point. Let's find where that vertex, that maximum, that highest point, let's find our x and y values. We find our x value by doing negative b over 2a. Negative parentheses over, divided by, 2 parentheses. Okay. Instead of b, I put a set of parentheses. Well, what is b? b is negative 6. Negative 6. So now we have to be careful because now this is a negative 6. Okay. In the denominator, a is negative 1. So now we simplify. I just want you to do the numerator first. If you don't know how to simplify negative 6, all you do, negative, move that over, parentheses, negative 6. It's going to come out to be positive 6 because the negatives cancel each other out. So positive 6. Do the denominator, 2 times negative 1. It's going to give you a negative 2, negative 2. It doesn't do the order of operations, so you have to do it in 2 steps here, and then we can divide 6 by negative 2, and we come out with negative 3. Okay, so what is that? That is your x. So that is our x here, negative 3. That is also, you can just simply write in your axis of symmetry, x equals negative 3. Because that's what x equals. All right, we need to find our y value. So we also found our axis of symmetry, x equals 3. We need to find our y. So we need to take our x and substitute it in and calculate. So let's rewrite our original f of x equals negative x squared minus 6x plus 4. If you feel comfortable with the 1, you can do that. And anywhere we see an x, we're going to put a set of parentheses. X, set of empty parentheses, brought down the negative, x, set of parentheses, squared, minus 6, x, set of empty parentheses, plus 4. What are we going to put in those parentheses? The number that we just found, negative 3, negative 3, negative 3. Please notice, if you use the set of empty parentheses, little helpful hint, it takes care of your negatives. So this right here is correct. If people don't use parentheses, I see that they usually don't get that correct there. They mess up there. So use your set of empty parentheses and then input your number. So negative 3 squared, negative parentheses, negative 3 squared, minus 6 parentheses, negative 3, that really means times, correct? Plus 4. I'm just going to double check. Negative 3 squared minus 6. Perfect. Enter. And I get 13. So when I input the 3 for the x, I get the output of 13. So this is my y value of my vertex. So this maximum happens at negative 3, 13. And where does it cross my y-axis? What's my y-intercept? It happens at 0, comma, whatever my c was. My c was 4. So that's where it crosses the y-axis. If you would like to graph it, you can. I am going to go on to the last one. Now, for this last one, if you'd like to try it on your own and pause the video and then come back for the answer, you may do that. Try it out. Okay, here we go. We have an x squared here. There's no number in front, so I'm going to put a 1 because that helps us to find what our a is. Our b is going to be here, and here's our c. Okay, so our a is always next to that x squared. So our a is 1, our b is 7, and our c is 1. All positives. We have no minus signs. All right, so let's look at our a. Our a is positive. That means it goes up. That means that our vertex is a minimum. I'm just going to put min for minimum. Let's find our vertex. So we need to find the x value first. We find the x value using this formula, negative b over 2a, negative parentheses divided by 2 times parentheses. In the numerator, we look for b. B is 7. Denominator is a. A is 1. Simplify the numerator, negative 7. 2 times 1 is 2. Divide that out, I get 3.5. That is my x value, negative 3.5. Okay, make that decimal, negative a little bit bigger. Okay, so negative 3.5, because negative 7 divided by a positive 2 gives you a negative 3.5. That's also my axis of symmetry, negative 3.5. That's that imaginary line that cuts my graph down through the middle. We now need to find our y value. So we write our original equation out. X squared plus 7x plus 1. If you feel comfortable, you want to put the 1 in here, it's fine. Replace your x's with a set of parentheses. Helps you to control your negatives. Making sure x set of parentheses, x set of parentheses, x set of parentheses. In the set of parentheses, negative 3.5. I did not leave myself a lot of room. Negative 3.5. Negative 3.5. There we go. In the calculator, you're going to do this side of the equation, so let's put it in. Parentheses, negative 3.5 squared plus 7 parentheses, negative 3.5. Whoops. 3.5. Went too fast there. And then plus 1. Double checking. Parentheses, negative 3.5 squared, plus 7, parentheses, negative 3.5, plus 1. Perfect. Enter, negative 11.25. Now, decimals, absolutely fine. That's okay. They're not going to be perfect numbers like negative 3 and 13. They're not going to be perfect integers. Integers are whole numbers and their opposites. Decimals are fine. So, here's the y value. Negative, I did not leave myself enough room. Negative 11.25. So here's the vertex, negative 3.5, negative 11. Wow, so this goes far down on the negative values for x and y. So that's where that minimum value is. Where does it cross the y-axis? What's the y-intercept? 0, comma. We need our c value. C value is 1, so that's where it crosses the y-axis. If you would like to graph it, to make sure that your answers are correct, you may graph it. That's one way to check. But this is it for me. This has been general form, how to find our vertex, our axis of symmetry, our y-intercepts, if it opens up or down, if it has max or mins. I hope it helped.